In this video, you're going to be making a brand new request to a brand new URL as a challenge. So this new request isn't going to return a puzzle. Instead, it's going to return a different set of data related to the various countries in the world. The data that we're going to be working with is going to include things like their country code, their time zone, the country name, where it's located, currencies, all sorts of interesting information about all of the countries in the world. So let's go ahead and start off by exploring that data in the browser. Then we'll come back to the editor and I'll outline the steps that I'd like you to go through. We can find all of this data by heading over to the browser. And we're going to go to rest-countries.eu. This page has the documentation for the various URLs that are available to us. So in the case of the puzzle API, we just had a single URL /puzzle that we could access. Over here, though, there are about a dozen different ones. We can get the information for all countries. We could search for a specific country by its name or by other criteria. We could find all of the countries that use a specific currency, for example. For our purposes, we're going to stick with the endpoint, the URL, that returns all of the countries with their related information. Now we can actually view this in the browser. We can view the JSON data just like we did before. All I'm going to do is click that URL. Right here, it is going to bring us to the example URL that we can use. This is the one that returns the JSON information. And then I'm going to create a new tab and visit it. So right here, that is rest-countries.eu /rest/v2/all. If we visit this URL, what we're going to get back is just a tremendous amount of JSON data. As you could see there before it finished parsing, it just ran off the bottom of the screen. And that's because what we got back was an array of objects, an array of 249 different objects, one for each country. So let's go ahead and just explore one of the individual objects because they all follow the exact same format. They all have the same properties, much like all of our to-dos have the same properties or all of our notes. If I crack open this first one, we can see this is for Afghanistan. Under the name property, we have Afghanistan, and we have a whole bunch of other information too. We have a lot of nested properties, so top-level domain, calling codes, alt spelling. We also have ones that have more direct values, like region being Asia and subregion being Southern Asia. For example, we could take a look at currencies. So currencies is a property on this object. It itself is an array, and since Afghanistan just has a single currency, there's just a single element inside of there. If we crack that open, we can see the currency code is AFN, and we can even see the currency symbol down below. Now, if this is an overwhelming amount of information, don't worry. I'm not going to ask you to do anything too complex with all of this for the moment. All we're going to do is worry about the alpha 2 code and the name. We're just going to focus on those two properties and we're going to ignore everything else. The first thing I'd like you to do before we make the request and work with this data is figure out what the code is for your country, where you currently are. You can do this with a quick Google search. There's a standard for these country codes. It's called ISO 3166-2. And this is going to allow us to find our correct country code. And you can typically just search the actual country name afterwards. For example, I could search Mexico. And right here, I get the country code. It is MX. We could switch this one up for United States of America. And I get the country code US. Notice that the country code is just a string in all uppercase. So this is what we're going to be using to locate the correct country in this array. We're going to find it by its alpha 2 code. Then we're going to print the name of that country. So let's go ahead and see what this is actually going to look like by outlining what I'd like you to do. Down below, I'm going to paste in a series of comments. Right here, there are 4 main steps we're going to go through to get this done. First up, we're going to make a new request for all of the countries using the get method in the URL that we just saw up above. Now we're actually going to be using the HTTP version of the URL right here. So let's go ahead and remove the S. What we get back is the exact same set of data. When we have an HTTP page, we want to use HTTP data. When we have an HTTPS page, which we don't have, we'll use the HTTPS URL for the data. So in this case, we do want to stick to the HTTP URL for step 1. Step 2, you're going to parse the response text. So you're going to parse the JSON that comes back, and what you're going to get is an array of objects where each object represents an individual country. Now up above, the JSON we got back when parsed was an object directly. Down below, it's actually an array. So that is steps 1 and 2. After step 2, you're going to have an array of data. Step 3, you need to find the country by country code. So down below, I'm going to create a country code variable with my country code. We want to look through that array, finding the correct item and getting that back. Remember, that is the alpha2 code property that we care about. We want to make sure that property matches up with our country code. When it does, we have found the match for our country. And the last thing we're going to do is print the full country name. So we're going to print out that name to the screen. If we open up Afghanistan again, and we had a country code AF sitting right in here, I would expect to see the name Afghanistan printing. So in my case, I have US for United States. I would expect to see the United States of America printing if I have completed everything successfully. So take as much time as you need to knock all of this out. When you're done, save the file, test your work, and make sure you do see the correct result. Take a moment to pause the video, and when you're done, click play. How'd you do? Let's go ahead and dive right in by creating the new request. Right here, a const with a unique name. I'll call this country request. And I'll set it equal to new XML HTTP request, just like we did up above, passing in no arguments to the constructor. Now we are going to set up the event listener in just a moment, but before we do, I'll call open and send. Down below, country request dot open, passing in the 2 arguments it expects. The first is get. We are making a get request here. The next one is the actual URL, and we have the URL right in the browser. I'm just going to copy it directly and paste it down below. Perfect. Notice this is the HTTP version of the application, and that's exactly what we want. Now we can call request.send below that. So country request.send. Excellent. Now all we have to do is do something on ready state change. Up above, that is country request dot add event listener. The event that we're listening for is called ready state change in all lowercase. We get our event argument, we set up our listener function, and this function is going to fire. So this finishes up step 1. Step 2 is to parse the response text to get back that array of objects. Now, in order to parse the response text, we have to wait for the actual request to be completed. So I can set up an if condition to check for that, and it is going to be identical to what we have up above. So right here, if e.target.readyState, and we're going to check if that equals 4, and we're also going to check if e.target.status equals 200. So if we actually open up the developer tools for this URL and go over to the network tab and give things a quick refresh, we can see we're also getting a 200 back for a success from this URL. So we're going to check for that as well. Now inside of here, we can do the thing we want to do, which is to parse the data and then find that country. I'm going to start off by creating data. Const data equals, we'll use JSON.parse to parse the data, and the data still lives on e.target.response text. So at this point, we have our array, and we actually want to iterate over it, finding the match. I'm going to store that match in const country. And right here, I'm going to use data.find to get the job done. Remember, find allows us to get back an individual item. Filter, which you may have used, allows us to filter down an array. You could technically do it with both, but since we're looking for a specific country, just one, I'm going to be using find. Data.find, passing in our function. The function gets called with the individual country. I'll call it country. Then what we're going to do is figure out if country.alpha2 code is equal to our country code from up above sitting right here. Country code. If it is equal, then we've found a match. We'll return true, and this match will be stored in country. Now that is allowing us to move on to step 4, print the full country name. That is console.log. Accessing our country object, accessing its name property. Perfect. With this in place, we should be able to test things out. I'm going to save app.js and head over to the Hangman application. And right here, what am I getting? I'm getting United States of America printing because that is the name for the country code I provided. We could provide another country code like MX for Mexico. Right here, I am indeed seeing Mexico print. Now we could also handle the errors if there is a response and it is not a status of 200. We could print something in that case as well. In this case, there is no way to simulate it like we could before with a misspelling, but we can still add the logic in. Else if, right here, e.target.readyState is equal to 4, then we can just print console.log, unable to fetch data. Awesome. Now that we have this in place, we're all done with the challenge. We have a system for taking a country code, going off to some third-party data source, getting information about that country, and then using it in a meaningful way. Let's go ahead and remove the challenge comments, and that's where we're going to stop for this one. In the next video, we're going to continue learning about asynchronous JavaScript. Now, this section is called Asynchronous JavaScript, but I haven't said the word asynchronous once in the last 2 videos. In the next video, we're going to see how this fits in with what we've already done. I'm excited to get to that, so let's go ahead and jump right in.